The Seraphim locked onto the linear rail. Ah, it appears we are not wearing plug suits. Please hang on, the G-force of the launch will be quite powerful. Oh, great! Oh, there we go. Shields braced himself against the cockpit's spherical wall. As a linear rail flung the Seraphim out of the hangar, everything became a blur as all the blood in his body flowed to the back of his body. Ugh. Oh, there we go. She still doesn't care! Look at that face! The Seraphim emerged out the front of the ship into a field of fire. Flak rounds exploded all around them, while laser beams split the black void of space like thunder. Alliance and Pact ships were tangled at dagger range, pounding each other with kinetic rounds. Ships exploded around them, as swarms of riders spiraled around ships. Bombers tried to take down larger ships with missiles, while interceptors cut down the bombers with assault rounds. I will use the chaos of the battle to withdraw. Please hang on in case of unexpected turbulence. Sola spun the Seraphim around sharply, sending shields tumbling to the opposite end of the cockpit sphere. Ah! She narrowly avoided getting clipped by a stray laser. On the opposite side, a homing missile headed straight towards them. With another emergency maneuver, Sola spun the Seraphim and dived. The missile adjusted its course after them, directly into a wall of flak. The cockpit shook as pieces of the missile struck the rider, causing no damage except to shield his already battered body. He felt nausea building up within him, as the sphere shook and revolved around the Seraphim's evasive maneuvers. I am sorry. Don't worry about me. Just focus on getting us out of here. Understood. Shield saw a Pact prototype unit making a beeline for their position. The Seraphim opened fire, clipping its right rear thruster with a well-placed snipe. The prototype unit spun in circles as it lost control. Two more coming from above! The Seraphim revolved above and loosed another round, catching one of the prototype units directly in the gut. Its reactor exploded in a blue fireball, sending its limbs flying. The second prototype unit opened fire, spraying the Seraphim with pulse bolts. Sola slammed the thruster, sending shields flying to the roof of the cockpit. The bolts sailed safely past behind them. Ah! I am. Don't worry! Understood. The prototype unit loosed a rack of missiles. They streamed towards the Seraphim like a horde of raptors. Okay. Do raptors hoard? I don't know. They chase motorbikes, I know that. I don't know. Sola twisted the control stick, sending the Seraphim into a spiraling dive, straight into the flak wall of an Alliance battleship. She gritted her teeth as her eye ignited blue. Hang on. She weaved the Seraphim through the battleship's flak rounds, explosions popping all around the rider, but never hitting it. The missiles were nowhere as skilled at dodging the flak, and imploded behind the Seraphim. Sola spun her rider once more and took aim. The third prototype unit disappeared in a brilliant flash of blue as Sola once again bullseyed its reactor. Shields peeled himself from the cockpit's wall, bruised but still conscious. Did we get the last of them? Oh, brilliant. Hello, Alice, again. His heart sank when a new, massive rider appeared before them. One which struck terror into Shields' heart. Shit. So this is where you are hiding. But this is where mission ends. Really? Oh, come on, Love in Space. Fix it, please. There's been quite a few mistakes recently when it comes down to spelling. Well, grammar, technically. The Nightmare Ascendant raised its particle gun and took aim. But before it could fire, it was enveloped in explosions. Phoenix and Paladin, come in to assist! Ha! I'm your enemy, prototype! The Phoenix raced ahead and came at the Nightmare Ascendant, katana drawn. The Nightmare Ascendant met the Phoenix's blade with its own, in a grand display of its overwhelming strength. The Nightmare Ascendant shoved the Phoenix away like a titan, pushing back the valiant hero who had dared stand against it. We'll distract it! Sola, you know what you have to do! Yes. Shell's heart pounded as the Seraphim hit its thrusters, leaving the Nightmare Ascendant to Akari and Kreiska. You two, don't die. Shields balled his hand into fists. He desired with all his heart to remain with the others for the battle, but his own mission was too great to abandon. I can only trust in the other girls. Come on, my other self. You had better pull through. With that, the Seraphim left the battle behind and vanished into the abyss of space. Ooh. T-minus 3 hours before the Liberation Day Massacre. Oh, here we go. Oh. Ooh, interesting. You ready, Sola? Let's get some assassination going on. Yeah. Shields waited with Sola on the upper balcony of the award hall. They had waited at this position for the better part of the past 20 hours. Shields had the advantage of knowing where the celebration party was going to be held in advance. Thanks to his drastic escape from the Sunrider, security at a celebration would certainly be on the lookout for him, but they would never expect that he had already arrived at the site hours before when the battle, much less the party location, was even decided. News of the liberation of Sira had finally hit the HoloNet. After a night of desperate fighting, the tide of the battle had finally turned when Chigara devised a method to interfere with the prototype's brainwaves by entering their mind stream. This allowed Venkasa Fontana to regain control of his ships and launch a devastating pincer attack on the remaining loyalist Pact forces. When the prototype leader fell on the Nightmare Ascendant, all remaining Pact vessels surrendered unconditionally. Venkasa Fontana, newly instated leader of Pact, shortly thereafter announced his intent to sign a peace treaty with the Solar Alliance, wherein Pact relinquished all military control over the Neutral Rim. A victory celebration wherein Chigara would be awarded with the Ferelden Cross was announced as well. Basically, nothing's changed from the past. Everything we did up to this point was meaningless. But now is the time when we can make everything right. The time's finally come. Shields looked down to the stage from the balcony, a perfect sniper's perch. He was approximately 150 meters from where Chigara would stand at the stage to accept the medal, and then drop a pair of hunter drones into the hall. Too far for shock rounds, but more than close enough to snipe her dead. Shields closed his eyes. This was the only option he had left. Everything else had failed. Chigara. His heart pounded, sweat matted his uniform. This would be where he would kill the former love of his life. Sola wrapped her arms around him. He put his hand on hers. Just a bit more, then we'll be through with this mission. I am the better marksman. I shall take the shot. No. From this distance, not even I can miss with a scope. This is my mission. It's the reason why I was sent here. I'm going to be the only one to bear this burden. It is mine to carry. Doing his best to force a smile on his face, Shields put his hand on top of Sola's head and patted her soft hair. You just stand guard. Make sure our position isn't detected. Understood. The two of them once again sat down and waited. Here we go. This music again. Finally, the moment came. The award hall was filled with guests. Shields grabbed the rifle and looked down through his scope. Sure enough, he could see himself and Chigara sitting in the front table. Chigara stood and walked towards the stage. This is it! Sweat dripped down his nose, despite the air-conditioned hall. You could hear his temples pounding as blood coursed through his head. If his heart pounded any louder, he feared he would go deaf. He trained the crosshairs between Chigara's eyes. All he would have to do is pull the trigger. Then none of the nightmares of the past would happen. The Admiral would not be shot before his very eyes. The Alliance officers would not be gunned down. The Alliance would not attempt to unleash the Tactical Paradox Core upon his home world. The galaxy would not be thrust into a massive war to the bitter end. His ship would not be lost in a final suicide attack. He would instead return home at the end of a hard-fought war. He would finally return to that mountain and bury his sister, bury her so deep that her ghost would no longer haunt him in his nightmares. Memories flashed by in his head. This again? Ugh, I don't care about Chigara anymore. He had loved her. He would have dropped everything else in his life to open her bakery. He had promised her that he would burn the very galaxy if it meant protecting her, yet he found himself here, breaching that very promise. His eyes began to water. He had imagined they would get married, that they would have children, that the scars of the past would heal as he lived out the remainder of his life with her in peacetime. Her voice echoed in his head. It was the only voice which soothed his agony. Every time he heard Moray's voice accusing him of abandoning her, Chigara would tell him that he had done his very best, that his sister did not resent him for abandoning her to her fate. She would call him a hero, 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 and yet that hero had his finger upon the very trigger which would end her life. No, it was all a lie. Tears streamed down his cheeks. She said all those things just to control me. In the end, she was nothing but a prototype. She betrayed me, betrayed everyone. Yet his heart twisted so he could no longer breathe. He had to end this now, or else he would choke upon his regrets and drop dead. Another choice? Really? Oh my god. This definitely deserves a save. Let's pull the trigger. Ah! Chigara! Shields peeled his eyes open and summoned all the strength in his body, or else he knew he would back out at the very last moment. He channeled everything he had within him to his finger and pulled the trigger. The single sharp crack of the rifle echoed through the hall. Chigara took the bullet directly to the head. Shields kept his eyes open. The back of her skull burst open, splattering the floor with her brain and blood. She crumbled to the floor, her face contorting with pain. Finally, her face came to rest upon an expression of relief. Alice had finally died, leaving Chigara with just a split second of knowledge that Alice's final desperate plan to destroy all that they had accomplished had failed. The light faded from Chigara's eyes as she relished Alice's defeat. With that, Alliance servicemen burst into the room and evacuated the Alliance dignitaries. Everyone else ran from the room, crouched down and covering their heads, except the other shields, who ran to the stage and cradled Chigara's dead body. The massacre was thwarted, the future was saved. Shields crumbled down to the floor, sobbing. He had succeeded. I did it. I changed history. I won. And yet he felt nothing but a black void in his heart. Sola embraced him with all her heart, trying to comfort him in his darkest moment. Yes, Captain, you have won. This is our victory. Everyone has been saved. Sola! He sobbed into her shoulder. I killed her! I killed Chigara! And in the end, she was relieved! Shh! You needn't worry about that. I am here, am I not? From now, I shall provide whatever she did. You mustn't cry, Captain. You are my hero. You are everyone's hero. Shields merely sobbed in horror at what he had just done. The world around him faded to white. A time paradox now triggered. This universe ended, and a new universe was born in its place. A mostly happy universe, where the Liberation Day massacre did not exist, but also one where Shields never got over the scars he received throughout his desperate mission to liberate Sierra. Back home? Okay. Shield sat on his bed in his apartment. 5 years had passed since he thwarted the prototype's plan to assassinate Admiral Grey and the Alliance military leaders. In a universe which resulted from his actions, the timeline was as follows. Kyoto Shields discovered that his chief engineer was a prototype spy, thanks to a misplaced holo left by her accomplice, the ship's doctor. He managed to thwart the mass assassination by sniping her dead during the award ceremony, moments before she carried out the attack. While he was briefly detained by the Alliance after he turned himself in, the ensuing investigation uncovered undeniable evidence of Chigara's plot, completely vindicating Shields. In the end, he ended up being the one to receive a medal. Yet, killing Chigara changed Shields forever. Shortly after the restoration of Sierra High Command, Shields transferred himself to a minor desk job. Far away from galactic fame, instead he lived out the following years as a recluse, never once setting out to space again. Every night, he struggled through nightmares where he was visited by the rotting corpses of Chigara and his dead sister. Every night, their ghosts reminded him of a single truth, that he had failed to save them. Eventually, he became an insomniac and had to be medicated to be able to function normally. Oh god. His sole source of comfort was his loving wife, Sola, who vanished from the galactic stage along with him, and endeavoured to single-handedly heal his wounds. While Shields fell deeper into depression, she watched over him with nothing but a gentle smile. Every night, she stroked his head until he finally pretended to be asleep. However, seeing Sola trapped in a relationship with him only fueled his guilt. Yet, he didn't have the motivation to do something as drastic as kill himself. Instead, he merely felt an enormous numbness. The numbness of no longer having a purpose. For the rest of his life, he would merely wander on, working as a civil servant, picking up the usual paycheck, and grow old with Sola, until they finally disappeared from the face of the planet. Oh, there we go. Alternate end. Oh. That was quite a sad ending, really, wasn't it? I feel sorry for Shields becoming an insomniac. Though I guess the good thing is he did technically end up with Sola, which is a really good thing, because Sola is bae. Alright. Well, looks like you managed to thwart the massacre. But you still mostly screwed up in the end, cause Chigara ended up escaping when you kidnapped her. The ship lost all power, and the warning wasn't relayed to Fontana in time. Well, that wasn't my fault. If you hadn't shot Chigara at the very end, things would pretty much have ended exactly the same as the main story. Yes. Try again, and this time, don't waste time trying to restore the Sunrider's main reactor. Instead, find a way to prevent Alice from assuming control of Chigara during the kidnapping attempt. Then the reactor won't be shut down in the first place. Teehee, I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out, Captain. Sure. I already did. Alright. So, how many more endings? Oof. There we go. And there we go. Sola's alternate end. All we have left to do now is find the normal, worst, and happy end. That shouldn't take too long. Okay then. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Delpha. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. Thank you again, and goodbye.